Hey, and we are live. Welcome back, everybody, to Behind the Tool Belt, episode 240. We appreciate you checking in on this Wednesday. After our short messages from our sponsors, we will be right back. Stay tuned.
TC Backer. Roofing, siding, windows, gutters, solar. Roofing, siding, windows, gutters, solar. TC Backer.
Is your lead flow down? Whether you're a company owner, office staff, salesperson, or installer, you're a roofing rock star. We help you get more leads with custom SEO, Google Ads, and a pro website.
TC Backer.
We are back. Welcome back, everybody. Thank you for joining us on your lunch break. We have two special guest reappearances in studio, live audience with Victor at the helm, back here on the production side of things. And now we're back in town, back from our great grand opening in Bluffton, South Carolina. I believe we're going to have another great grand reopening of our Greenville office.
Looking forward to that.
November-ish?
I think that's what we said.
First week, perhaps in November. That'd probably be the week or two after RoofCon, which I'm really looking forward to this year here. And Win the Storm, they've reached out to us most recently, I guess. Can't think of her name right now. Tana? What's her name?
Tatiana, maybe?
Tatiana?
I don't know.
No. Anyhow,
Do
from
better.
Win the Storm. Tiana from When the Storm reached out. So they're asking us back there as well. So that'll be wild and interesting. And we got some new ideas and things to set up for our display. Our booth will be kick-ass and rocking. So how are you guys?
I'm great. I'm pretty phenomenal. My watch this morning gave me a really solid sleep score, and it left me with a little message that said I would be prepared for anything the day threw at me. So
That's good. I had kind of a restless night, but it was very productive.
Your night was?
Yeah. My morning thoughts were very productive.
Good.
I felt like we kicked ass and took names. Mostly you and Tam did this morning. But I felt like we covered mostly everything that was racing through my mind overnight. And, it's funny how you get those thoughts. Usually, I don't know about you, but like I don't know if I'm sleeping or if I'm dreaming, but I feel like I have some of my best epiphanies or ideas in those twilight moments.
That makes sense.
Do you know what I mean? And it's like, I don't know if that's intuition or I'm so obsessed over something that like I dream about it in that twilight state or something. It's like, I don't know if I slept last night or if I just maybe I did, maybe I didn't. But I feel like that's where some of my best thoughts and ideas and stuff come from. So anyhow, I thought I'd share that. But I feel good. I feel revitalized. I know Monday morning I felt great. I felt the life get sucked out of me Monday afternoon. And then Tuesday I felt a little fog, and I think a lot of that had to do with, and I was telling Vic, where it's like, as soon as I got home, I could feel that pressure that I don't even recognize or notice. Like when we were on the road last week, you know what I mean? There was a lot of things going on. I mean, there was the house stuff, you know what I mean? We had the grand opening stuff. And then to add insult to injury, as Jana would say, why do you always got to add something into that with, with the challenge and stuff?
Yeah.
And it was like, I didn't want to lose that opportunity where those that are very special to me and Jana were under the same roof, right? And we had to get another place and have Howie and Gio, but all in the same area at the same time and stuff like that. So maybe we can talk a little bit about, I know we talk about culture and camaraderie and stuff like that, but like, let's go a little deeper on that. Like, let's maybe talk about that pivotal point. We don't have to share our story about like that particular time, but like how crucial or detrimental if you take advantage of it, because it, excuses, you talked about excuses right before we went on here a little bit, that we have, and Tim Grover talks about, we have the luxury of excuses today in the world that we live in today. But that, pivotal moments where I guess people propel themselves, or that, what is it called? The inflex point of your life where it was like, I had a choice, a decision to make, where I allow that to continue to hold me down and use that as an excuse, or I use it as an inflex where it's like, it's either preparing me for life's adversities, and where I can look back and say to myself, where, I got through that, why can't I get through this?
Yeah.
Or where, whatever rabbit hole that we want to go down. But I feel personally, last week was very impactful. It was very intimate. I don't think you could do what we did with everybody.
No.
I don't think everyone's willing to get vulnerable like that all the time. And there may have been a few people in the room that I think if we would have pressed on them, they probably would have. The cool thing, and when I scanned the room, I felt like there isn't a person in this room right now that I wouldn't trust being vulnerable with. So I know for me, in order for me to be vulnerable, obviously on that level of vulnerability and transparency, I need to trust those that I'm around. And that in itself is a topic too, of like you guys, all four of us sitting in this room, I feel good energy. I have a good vibe with you guys. I feel very creative when I'm with you guys, and a lot of things can be accomplished when you surround yourself around those that you trust, those that you feel like you can be vulnerable around. Be fully transparent, like, and me, when I'm having a bad day, like it's just written all over my
Absolutely.
face.
You don't even have to speak.
Yeah.
It's tough.
and that's an important thing to be at a high performing level of us pushing each other to be better, whether we're jiving on like what meds, vitamins, supplements are you on, what are you taking, and we're going back and forth and you express, engage your core when you're doing things. And I'll be honest with you, like I've been doing that.
Yeah, shit works, ain't it?
Yeah, it works. Like, so I don't have to do sit-ups, push-ups and all that. Although I did complete the challenge. We did a challenge together. We did 1,776 push-ups in the month of July for bicentennial.
How does that work? How's that math work out? 60 a day.
60 a day.
Okay.
Which was pretty easy.
It ends up being a little bit more than the 1776, but
it's like
60 a day.
1776.6 or some shit like that.
1776. I get it. Was this a political statement? I
Mm-hmm.
mean, it can be.
It could be
1776. That's
July,
our year of independence.
Yeah. Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
Touché.
Yeah, it was good. It was good. But I was engaging my core when I was doing that. And I felt like I I felt the difference. Like I was sore, especially up top here a little bit. But then I got in tune with my breathing where I was forgetting to breathe when I was doing. I just had my core, but then I learned how to like
you can breathe and engage your core
at the same time and stuff like that. And because of you pointing that out to me, you guys are the people I want to hang out with.
Right.
You know what I mean? Who has nerdy conversations like that are very impactful? you know what I mean?
True, man. True.
So anyhow.
So you touched on culture. You
All
touched on
kinds of shit.
excuses.
Yeah.
We went vitamins, diaphragmatic breathing.
Yeah.
Where do you want to go from here?
Shoot, anywhere you want to go. I mean, just jiving. You know, the jive and being around the right people. You know, at good times, bad times, that help push you through the good and the bad, and reach those goals. The vision, the mission, the goal. You know, and speaking of that little challenge that we did, it's like, you know, the next thing that we're going to do at the company here is we're going to do strategic planning together. I'm laying that out, the pros, the cons, the opportunities, right? The threats. You know what I mean? We'll talk about stuff like that where we can get Sam, you, Kim, you know, the whole group of us in the room, and we're going to write this out. And what 1 year looks like, what 3 years looks like, what 5 years, and go out 10 years. And we'll write the list of things out, and then I'll give everybody a little dot. And out of the 15 things, everyone gets to pick the top 3 things that they think should go to the top of the list. And we'll count those dots up. And, you know, just little things like that I want to do more of. And, you know, off-site stuff, on-site stuff, bring people in to talk and share and stuff like that. So we can all level up, you know, and be as a unit, be as a group of trusted servants, because we're here to serve and impact other people's lives and all that good stuff. So I feel like I'm talking the whole time.
I have a thought.
And I'm just going to
You
shut
have
up.
one?
And let's
I feel like we're both leaning in.
awkward.
You go first.
You want me to go first?
We can have an
I don't know.
silence.
I just want to make a comment on the, you know, you touched on the stuff that the exercise we did when we were down there. Maybe not necessarily something that exactly replicates that, but any kind of exercise that we can come up with the whole team, I think is going to be crazy impactful. It's not going to be a negative whatsoever, because, you know, you made a comment about there may have been a couple people in the room that didn't necessarily want to share and didn't want to get vulnerable. But when I looked around that room, everyone was impacted. You could see it on their face.
Yeah.
Everyone had emotion. Everyone was in that moment. They felt it, that, you know, there was a feeling that I had from everyone and their stories and their sharing, that, you know, you can put yourself in their shoes. You could feel the emotion. And you can't, like, I walked out of that room having a lot more respect and empathy for everyone that was in that room, whether I knew them or not. You know what I mean? Just because it takes a man to stand up in front of a bunch of other men and get emotional and be vulnerable and be real with yourself. I mean, you can go through those exercises and not be honest with yourself. But
Yeah,
if you
can.
actually, if you actually care about what the exercise is supposed to do, and you care about, you know, self-improvement and that kind of stuff, you're going to be honest with yourself, and it's going to have an impact.
Even if you're not at that moment, it's planted that seed. But
For sure.
the one thing I liked that you said is that I felt like everybody definitely was, whether they shared or not, even though the spotlight was on them, and that was strategic. Like the lesson wasn't about me necessarily. It was about putting everybody else in the spotlight or the limelight on them. But there wasn't a dry eye in that room. And not that I was looking to make sure everybody was crying.
If they cry, then buy, Ty.
Yeah, if they're crying, they're buying it. But it was cool, you know, and even for kind of just like winging it, I felt like it all kind of threaded together well, and it made the point, and made the impact.
We didn't wing that. You didn't wing that. That was good. You might have felt like you winged it, but
Yeah.
that was pretty well thought out.
Yeah,
I
for
think
sure.
I think you did a great
There was a
job.
lot of pressure. There was a lot of pressure that needed pressure, but I wanted to make sure that if, you know, this was our first one that we were doing, you know what I mean? And I wanted to do something that
Was that your first one?
for our team. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And see, and that was the thing too. It's like, you know, Vic and I have had this discussion. It's kind of like, yeah, I want to coach, and I have coached people, and I'm coaching people now. But it's like, okay, that's great. But I've learned more from that. The one thing I've learned about that is like, hey, let's not forget our team. Let's not forget our people, because like this is where it all begins. This is where it all starts. So in these conversations, I've had a lot with Tam and Vic about like doing things with individuals, doing things as groups, because I've traveled around the country. I've been to retreats. I've done counseling. I receive coaching. I do all these things, but like, what good is it doing anybody? Right now it's time to like apply these things, the books that I've read, the people that I hang out with. If I died today, what good would it have done you?
Right.
And that same goes for Howie. If Howie died today, his talents, we all know he's a master carpenter. I think he's proved that time and time again. Okay. With, and Gio, how beneficial he is to Gio, Theo, Pedro.
I think it's so much more than that. Like
no doubt.
I'm a deep thinker.
Yeah.
Like even this, how he made this for you.
Yeah.
It's beautifully done.
Mm-hmm.
It's rock solid.
Yes.
It's not just he's a master carpenter. He builds things. Man, I wish we could pull up a photo of the office down in Bluffton.
Mm-hmm.
Those desks, the training desk for the sales team that he built.
Mm-hmm.
So beautifully done. And could you get away with a card table?
We could have.
Yeah, you could. But there's a representation, there's a first impression when somebody walks into an office. When you have a sales professional walk into an office and they see and how he understands the level of quality that has to be there. And I don't know if you say that to him or if we should all go and celebrate him and tell him there's more depth to what he's doing. But he sees it. You could tell like he put heart into that thing.
You want to know what's cool about that is he didn't even take the credit for them. He gave it to Pedro and Gio and Theo. They're the ones he showed them.
Yeah.
So he's literally, because he built them before and they helped him.
Yeah.
But he admittedly, hey, these guys, they're the ones that.
Same story for them too. Then
100%. I just wanted to put that out there that how we actually gave them, at least to me, he did.
Yeah.
Over the phone, he was telling me like, yeah, thank God for those guys, because he's busy. Yeah. Right. He's running around making shit look beautiful all day, every day. Like he's the clutch guy. So he's got a shop over in Waynesboro that has every tool imaginable for woodwork and craftsmanship type of individual or company. And there's not much, from cabinetry. It's one thing to be like a carpenter in terms of rough framing a house. Right. But when it comes to furniture making and cabinetry and staircases and things like that's a whole nother level.
That dude could probably cut a tree down and turn it into raw lumber, turn it into fine lumber, and then make you whatever the hell you want.
Absolutely.
Honestly, any piece of furniture,
this all
handheld device, like anything.
That's what this basically. He didn't cut the tree down, but all this wood that you see in the office is rough cut lumber from upstate New York that he drug down here in order for us from our family's sawmill to create the build out in there, the cabinets out there, the countertops, Kim's desk, my desk, the training tables upstairs, the training tables now down south. And it's funny because Chris Mendez and them made that podium down there, but we had that podium, and I'm going to get a little, not sentimental, but superstitious. And somebody's like, are we taking a podium? I was like, no, that podium is going to stay here at least until we do, even though we didn't use it, but we used it. We used it down there. We used it. We actually used it for the grand opening here. It was there at that grand opening. So when we go to do our next grand opening, guess what's going to be hauled
podium
and left there. So that's kind of like, we talked about like before,
passing of the torch.
Yes.
Yeah, passing of the podium.
Yes. The passing of the podium.
Yeah.
Right. So, and again, I'm a little bit superstitious, but I also appreciate the value, the craftsmanship, that sentimental value that things like that hold, at least for me, and maybe it's a little superstitious, but anyhow, I liked how deep you were getting with that, because it is much deeper, and the impact.
I can go deeper.
The legacy. Go deeper on it. Let's talk about or whatever.
So there's been a quote sitting in my head for a few minutes now. A friend of mine, Juliana, years and years ago, super successful lady.
Mhm.
I mean, she's got a gazillion-dollar house on the beach in California, like on the water. Like remarkably successful lady. And we talked about vulnerability a decade ago. And she gave me a quote: "Never let your vulnerability affect your credibility." And I think I agree in pieces. From a public perspective, you know, dealing with your brand, there's certain things that the public doesn't need to know.
Mhm.
But your closest team, your tribe, they have to know. They got to know your shortcomings. They got to know the things you're good at. They got to know, like your family, what you're capable of and what you're not capable of, and what drives you, what motivates you, what's going to make you crumble. And there has to be enough trust inside of that room that those people won't use that information the wrong way. And I think we saw people in that room. There was a bunch of us shared,
Mhm.
and a handful of people didn't. They weren't ready to cross that bridge. I think there's a tribal mentality. Human beings are still tribal. They say, there's a great book, Sapiens, another one, Guns, Germs, and Steel, where it gets into human beings, laws of human nature by Robert Greene. 3 phenomenal books that, if you like studying people, if you manage teams, be a really good insight to look back at the history of human beings. But we're tribal. And in groups larger than 150, we start to worry subconsciously that we're going to be extricated from the tribe. And I think you see that in team members until a certain point. And I'm wondering, I guess the thought that I think about on a regular basis is, what has to happen for them to have enough courage to get some stuff off their chest?
What has to happen?
Yeah,
I think when the pain's great enough for anybody.
Get someone comfortable enough to just say, you know what, I'm going to say this, and I don't really care what the repercussions are.
Yeah, that's great. That's another super duper phenomenal quote. Change is only possible on the precipice of destruction.
Yeah,
I love that quote.
No doubt. Well, we use a quote too: when the pain's great enough, you'll get off your dead ass and do something about it.
That's a great quote too.
Yeah.
Say that again. When the pain's great enough, you'll get off your dead ass and do something about it.
Yeah. Or the trust that you have. I think that plays a lot into it too. But sometimes I think it might even be easier to just talk to strangers. Have you ever come across somebody that just is giving you information that, like, wow, that was pretty deep?
I'm the stranger.
And
people feel the need to do that to me all the time.
Yeah, right. And vice versa. I've even thought to myself, like, wow, I divulged a whole lot of information to this.
Yeah, I was going to say, man, I don't necessarily think that it has to just be strictly a trust thing, because have you ever had a conversation with someone that you only kind of knew, and then it's like by the end of that conversation, it's like, I really like that guy. Like, you got a lot deeper than what maybe you did with somebody that you've known a lot longer.
Oh yeah,
just because you just flow, you vibe, and like, you know, maybe they shared some stuff, and so you were like, I'm going to share some stuff. And so I think it has more to do with just the psychology of like, I trust you. I feel like human beings give off energy. You know, we're energy-based beings.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like when you have a group of people, or even just a one-on-one session with a person that you guys match energies, I think that you just subconsciously are just like, regurgitation of everything that I may not feel comfortable saying with other people, but like, you know, I'm going to find out right now if I really do vibe with this person, because, you know, I'm going to be vulnerable. And if they use it against me, or they make fun of me, or whatever, they make me feel small. then I obviously don't vibe with that person.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was just sitting here thinking that too, because some people I can only take in like 3-minute doses.
Yeah, because your
Yeah,
energies are probably opposite.
Yeah,
man,
not that I
or
don't
whatever.
like them or care for them, but it's just their energy don't flow with my energy, and I feel like it sucks my energy. You know what I mean? And that kind of happened to me Monday morning, where I came in here, I was ready to go, I was full of piss and vinegar, and not that like I dislike or whatever, but there was like back to back individuals or situations, I guess, that kind of just took the life out of me. And it's like, and I know that. I know that about them. I know that about me. And sometimes you can't avoid it, but I think awareness of that too is half the battle. It's like going back to like what I said. It's like, I know I gel with you guys. I know that, my energy level is so much higher just sitting here right now. And when we're finished this podcast, we're all going to walk out here, at least for me. I should say, I shouldn't speak for you guys, but I know I'll feel like I'm on cloud 9 when this is over, because the energy that I receive from you guys, and what's cool about this too is like we're having a vulnerable conversation right now, and this is the thing, like we do this so people can get something from it, and maybe not have thought about it the way that we're articulating it, or having a conversation that may encourage other people to have these conversations with other individuals. And I think that's the thing when you're in a group or a tribe like that. It's like we're encouraging. It's like, yo, dude just got really vulnerable. And it's like I've worked with people and I can't get them to open up until, and I know this now, until I share something vulnerable.
Yeah.
And it's like then they either say to themselves, well, Jesus, I wasn't that bad, or what I'm going through wasn't that bad.
How did that work for you as a leader? When was the time when you realized the vulnerability was important to growth? Dropping your ego was important to growth. And when was the first time that you let that out to your team?
So the first time that I have really become aware of it was probably 14, 15 years ago. I didn't really start to put it in practice in my professional life. Now, in my personal life, that was brought to my attention 14, 15, probably longer ago. Okay. But when I really started to practice that principle was probably 9, 10 years ago. Now, it didn't happen overnight, right? Because there's ego, there's pride, there's fear, there's all kinds of things that tend to block that vulnerability, from me releasing or feeling comfortable or whatever the case might have been. But it's a skill, just like a lot of other things are skills, and it's something that you have to work on, something that you have to practice. And I feel like probably 9, 10 years ago, shortly after my mom had passed, that I felt like, and because I think that may have contributed to that too, is more of an empathetic thing of someone passing in my life, and you never know where somebody is or what they're going through and how people deal with things slightly different than the way that I might be dealing with things. When someone passes in my life, I may not deal with that the way that somebody else has to go through it. Grieving process is different for everybody. It takes a lot longer for some people don't deal with it at all, and they stuff it, and then it comes out in other situations even a decade later. We've talked about this, like where I might just have a meltdown where I'm just bawling and crying because of something that I didn't deal with the way that I should have probably dealt with it a decade ago. And that's something that I try to point out to people too. Like, make sure you're dealing with this shit, or it's like, I don't understand why I like broke down at watching this movie, or I had a situation where I just totally flipped out and like said a lot of bad things to somebody. And it's like, typically we end up injuring other people that have nothing to do with the situation at the moment. It's usually with unresolved shit that I haven't dealt with. Anyhow, when I started to really talk about or work on self-mastery and like, how do I click? What is my why? Why am I here? Have I been given a second chance? If I have, what am I going to do with it? And all these things of just self-examination. I think when that light bulb started to go off and the impact that my mom had on my life and many others, and the way that I chose to deal with that, and I know I'm kind of getting off topic, but I felt like, okay, the way that I'm going to deal with this is, and you can probably see the trend here is that we doubled down on our charitable events. I chose to pick the torch up, put her shoes on because they were big, and I'm still trying to fill those shoes. Okay. And I've realized like, hey, I've been given a second opportunity, a second chance.
Yeah.
Okay. What am I going to do with that? I've been given the extended warranty, and I mentioned that last week where like I actually picked the phone up. I took the call when they were offering the extended warranties, right? What am I going to do with that? Am I going to take that for granted? Am I going to like, I don't need to know why I've been given that, because I even asked that, but why me? Like all these other people are dying and stuff from drug addiction or bad car accident or fell off a cliff. Like, why was I the chosen one? Why have I been chosen this far?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why. Why? Well, the only conclusion that I could come up with is that they something saw something in me, right? That grit, the grind, the threshold for pain is much greater than most people, whatever that is, right? So somebody or something saw something in me. So it's like, okay, I'm not going to take that for granted. And I'm sorry, I'm kind of going out in the weeds here a little bit on this. So what am I going to do with it? Okay, well, let's find things that we can do. We're here, and we talked about it. Like, we're here to serve. We're here to serve each other, right, wrong, or indifferent. As long as our intentions are good, and sometimes it's very uncomfortable. It's like, no, I got to remove this from you because this is what's best. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So sometimes those conversations can be very uncomfortable. But anyhow, to answer your question, even though I forgot what your question was, I'm going to try to remember it here in 2.3 seconds. About 9-10 years ago, I realized in order to, not really necessarily in order to get other people to open up, but I need to be real. If I want them to be real with me, be real. Can't believe I just said that. I need to open up and be vulnerable. I need to be real.
You do. Yeah. So 9-10 years ago, a lot to do with your mom. What about you?
So just so I make sure that I'm answering the right question, when was the point that I realized that I needed to be
Able to open up.
Able to open up?
Because you could do it for selfish reasons, and maybe it's not even selfish, but
Maybe we didn't even know we were doing it.
yeah, sometimes
Yeah, I honestly,
therapy.
man, I don't
it feels good.
I don't think I really got good at consciously being aware of like making sure that I let people know how things affect me, because I think that's a lot of it. Like
Boundaries.
Like how I communicate. I've always been I'll tell someone what I think about a situation, but not necessarily how a situation makes me feel. Because there's a difference there.
Yeah,
right. There's a difference on how we react to things too. Like I can react to something and just you'll know by my reaction that, maybe I wasn't a fan of this, or maybe I was a major fan of this, but to really articulate into like, this made me feel XYZ because this is how I interpreted your actions. Because that's a big thing too. Perception and interpretation are, there's probably 6 billion perceptions of this world walking around here. You know what I mean? Because of our past.
Especially with how we communicate too, like
Exactly.
via email, text messages. It's so easy to read it or read it wrong, read into it.
I literally will put at the top of a text, especially if I know it's going to come from I need a commitment. Like if I'm checking somebody up, if I am frustrated, I will put before the message, please read this in a frustrated tone.
Yeah.
Good for you.
if you're reading the, and the same is true the opposite. Like I'm not frustrated. This is a lighthearted message.
Yeah.
Please read it.
That's great. That's a great idea, because so many times, and I even changed the tone as I'm reading things.
Yeah.
I've caught myself.
And then questioning.
Yeah.
Like, is this guy mad at me? Is this human happy? You can't tell.
But Chris, this is such a great point too, and that's hard, and that's something too that I know for me and Vic in particular is sharing with somebody, like, whether it's just a question like, what did you mean by that,
Right.
or I don't like how that made me feel after you did that to me, or your reaction was like, I took offense to that. You know what I mean? That's a very hard conversation to have with somebody, because I think right away we don't want to hurt their feelings, but our feelings are hurt, from that action.
It's so much easier just to hurt feelings back too, man. But that doesn't solve anything.
No.
And it's very important, I feel. And I'm not perfect at this, but I want to say like 4 years ago is when I really became aware of how to communicate properly. And if for nothing else, to make sure that like my kids understand, like if I get mad about something, like I need you to understand why I'm mad, what this effect might be. But, as far as like personal and professional relationships, I think that you can't just say that made me mad. Okay. Because what you meant by your words or your actions may not be how I received it.
Yeah.
I am receiving that action or that sentence based on, and I'm interpreting it in my brain based off of past actions or words that were communicated to me that meant this. So if we spend our whole life where, A plus B equals C, A plus B equals C, A plus B equals C, and then all of a sudden you give me an A plus B, but yours equals D, I'm still going to think it equals C because my brain has been trained, and the situations and environments that I've surrounded myself with my whole life have trained me to see that. So I need to make sure that I'm understanding how you meant to deliver that, and then give my reaction to it.
So there's a part of our intro is giving the how. I'll give a how right now for anybody who's listening. So this is a very easy question that you can ask. And I like to categorize or frame or whatever, architect models to think by. So one model to think by is that there are two types of individuals: service to self and service to others. So in any communication, you can start with, am I operating in service to self or service to others? You can tell the difference between these two people, and not everybody exists in one or the other all the time. We go back and forth. So we ask the question over and over and over. Am I acting in service to self or service to others? You said something about perception. I'll give you another quote. I love my quotes. A mentor of mine said, the words were mine, the perception was yours. Now that can be used very, very powerfully. It can also be used very, very narcissistically. And I used to catch myself in a place where I would say something to a girlfriend or whatever, and they'd be upset, and I would brush it off like, well, the words were mine, the perception was yours.
Yeah.
And it's like you want to know how to stir one up?
Oh yeah.
Say that shit. Say that to your girlfriend.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm good.
You know the acronym for how?
No, what's the acronym?
It's honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. How?
Yeah.
That went through my mind, but no, I could definitely see how that could stir somebody's pot, and it quite frankly, it's pretty arrogant if you use it in that tone.
In that tone.
Yeah. No, but I love what you said. About is this? I guess one, self-awareness. Am I acting selfishly, or am I acting in a servant? Is my actions and my words, is it in the best interest for other people? But now I'll probably also listen to how people are expressing things to me. Like, are they acting selfishly, or are they acting servantly? You know what I mean? And
you got to keep in mind too that most people don't hear these conversations, don't study these, and even if they do, it's not the right time in their life to hear it.
Yeah.
So,
great point.
Be careful how you interpret their behavior, because it'll be difficult for you to give feedback to them, knowing what you know if they don't know what you know.
Man, it's so funny because it
always goes back to you. Service to self or
yeah.
service to others.
It's funny how I think we're born selfish. Okay, that's just a character defect or shortcoming or whatever it is that I think is, just built into us from a very young age. We scream, we have temper tantrums, and don't really care about anybody else's feelings other than our own.
That's survival mechanism.
Yeah, it's definitely survival. And I think over time, once we start having children or we get in a relationship, and then our eyes start to open up, or maybe we played team sports, as a kid growing up. I think as we get older, we realize there's much more than just me, right? And I'm not saying that some people aren't born with that natural instinct of being a servant or even leader. Those are both, I think, skills that everybody can work on and hone in, and it's obviously it's a choice. But as we grow into adults, we have kids, we have children, we realize that, this isn't about us, and I'm sure Zach Fisher's out here watching right now. And that dude, yep, there he is. That dude right there. Okay. He sacrifices. And this was the thing I was going to say, in every relationship, I don't care if it's children or if it's a significant other, there's got to be some form or of sacrifice, right? Like, yep, I don't like, Jana doesn't like to go to the movies. Okay.
Do you?
I do. I love buying the Jujubes, the gut buster size gulp soda. I want the biggest thing of popcorn, man. I want that shit stuck in my teeth and fall asleep halfway through the movie.
I do too.
Every time. Like, I love that. Right. And I know she doesn't, but she'll sacrifice that time, and she likes to just stay at home. She wants to, hit pause, go to the refrigerator, go to the bath, do whatever. But in everything that we do, we have to be willing, I think, to sacrifice, I guess. Man, maybe that's a bad choice of words, but we have to step outside of self and know that this makes them happy. Right. And again, that's going back into not being selfish, being here to serve others, making sure that, that we're providing or that they're happy. And it's like, I think we have to know too, that what we're signing up for, but getting back to the Zach Fisher thing, that dude sacrifices every single weekend with his children.
Oh yeah.
Works his ass off all week.
More than just the weekend.
Yeah.
I believe there's probably times that if Logan isn't the kindest on his bike over the weekend, I mean, he has to work all day.
In evenings.
He drives truck and works probably 14 to 16 hours and then comes home and works all night on the bike to get it ready for the weekend.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So there's a lot of sacrifice that goes there.
Right.
You know what I mean? But like the fulfilling thing on a father level is there is no doubt that if you go ask Logan who his hero is, you already know that answer.
Yeah. For sure.
You know what I mean? And like, that's something that like
all of his kids,
as a dad, we're all dads sitting here. There is no greater title out there than, when your child comes to you and that like, they know that you got them. You know what I mean? There's no question. There's no question.
Yeah.
And to be a child, from my perspective, I've had issues with my growing up and all that kind of stuff. Like we all have our stuff, but there was times that like, I understand how inconsistency affects a child.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like, so to be that consistent father figure, the consistent, I got you no matter what, I'll figure it out. That's worth more than its weight in gold. Yeah. I mean, to a child.
You're so absolutely right. And it's like, Jan and I have had this conversation about our children and I had Jacob at a very young age, and I was very inconsistent in everybody's life at that point in time. And to be able to reflect back on that and where I felt like I was actually, again, I was given another opportunity, another chance to kind of try to make my wrongs right with a family. Right. So Mackenzie and Rocket came along, and, especially Rocket, because, to be able to open his door, especially when he was younger, and not see the stress or the worry that some of us had to go through or felt growing up as a child, and the consistency, like he knows he knows which dad's coming home. Do you know what I mean?
Mhm.
There's one or the other. It's either dad's drained or dad's upbeat, but it's consistent, right? He knows what to expect. He basically knows what time I'm going to come home. The consistency that he just feels, and whether he knows it or not, he's come to expect that, and the consistent and trying to even get even better at it. Like this past school year, I stayed home a little bit longer to spend at least 15 minutes with him every morning, and it wasn't like this scheduled time or or this thing that was on the whiteboard or the calendar that dad and Rocket 6 o'clock to 6:15.
Mm-hmm.
It was just this consistency of, and I hated when I dropped the ball or I had to leave early or whatever the case might be, because it was just that special 15 minutes that I got to spend with him to say, what are you guys working on in school? And most of you know that, he's in Votech, and now he's working with his hands and getting creative, the artistic in him, like Howie. Hopefully next winter or summer he can work with Howie. He'll be a little bit older, and can work next to Howie. But that consistency of, Chris, you say this all the time, when Daddy gets home, he sets the tone.
Mm-hmm.
And I've taken that to heart. Like I'll sit in the truck for 10 minutes. I'll either listen to something that will change my mindset to prepare myself to go in the house. I'll clean up my inbox. You know what I mean? Not that I still don't look at my phone and stuff like that. Jan and I have been doing date night on Tuesdays now for, I don't even know how long. Got back to that because we used to do it. We got back to that. We switched the podcast to Wednesdays afternoon instead of Wednesday nights. Now our Wednesday nights aren't held hostage anymore, and just changing. And again, this is still a skill. And as I grow and as they grow, as Jana and I's relationship grows, things change and they get a little deeper, they get a little more intimate. But I can tell you this, the thing is that it's gotten better.
Yeah.
Because of consistency, and consistency, that's in my personal life, right? Consistency of suiting up and showing up in my professional life too has also done good by me, done well for me. And Chris, you and I have had this conversation. It's like, you just know I'm here, whether I'm here or not.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Because of the consistency of suiting up, showing up. Doesn't matter if it's raining out, doesn't matter if the worst thing has happened, we get through it together because of the consistency of working together. We get through it, and there's nothing, we know at this point in time, there's nothing that we can't get through together and stay consistent. We face everything and rise when, and that's the acronym for fear. We don't F everything and run.
Mm-hmm.
We're consistently facing everything and rising, consistent. And there's so many different rabbit holes of consistency we could go down.
Yeah, seriously.
But that's just kind of where I went with that. But we got to be getting close to our 1 hour here, or we're about 47 minutes into it. Before we get off here, is there something that you want to leave our viewers, our guests with today, before we get off here? Chris, why don't we start with you?
Something I want to leave the guests with.
Yeah. That golden nugget.
I tell you what, I'm going to base this last thing just based off of the journey that I've been on the last 2-ish years. It's never too late, man. It's never too late to try to do the thing that you want to do, to try to make the change you want to make, for yourself, for your family, professionally, whatever. All we have is time, man, and we have a limited amount of it. So whatever the thing is, if you feel uneasy about something, if you're doing something that, you just doesn't fully satisfy you, you should be fully satisfied in your life, no matter what it is. I can tell you, a lot of change can happen with consistency. I hate to keep using that word, but shit doesn't happen overnight, for sure. It takes a conscious effort to do things. And if you're struggling with anything professionally or personally, no matter what it is, identify it, talk about it, be vulnerable with your tribe, and hopefully you have
that small group of people, because it's probably small. There's, I don't know about you guys, but, I got a lot of acquaintances. I got a lot of people that I know, but there's very few people that I can get vulnerable with that I would actually take their constructive criticism to heart. You know what I mean? Because you can't ask someone an opinion about something if they don't have their shit together too. If you're the smartest person in the room, then you're in the wrong room.
Yeah.
So just, take that leap of faith and don't give up right before the miracle happens, man. Stay consistent with whatever it is, whether it's dieting, whether it's, getting in better shape, whether it's trying to be more conscious about time that you're spending, actually getting off your phone and listening to your child, because I know I'm guilty of it, man. I'm relaxing on the couch in the evening times, and there's times that Cameron will come down and want to talk to me about something, and I'm listening, but I'm still doing my thing. And it's like, my girl points it out to me, when he's talking to you, put the phone down, because, as a child, they notice that, man. If dad is not going to pay attention, eventually they're going to stop coming down and asking, and I don't ever want to. So it's a constant battle, but just make sure that you're conscious about it. And whatever that thing is, it's never too late. You're not too old. Make that change and be happy, because we have a limited amount of time, man. And there really is no mark on the calendar that lets you know when your time's up. So just do right by yourself and be happy. That's really what I got.
Love that. Yeah, it's a journey.
It's
a
is,
journey.
man.
There's no,
and you got to enjoy it. You got to enjoy the journey.
Date. Yeah, it's a journey, and to consistency, consistently be consistent. And then I have another acronym for time.
What is it?
I have two of them.
You want to say it, don't you?
Things I must earn and things I must endure. Your turn, Robert.
I love what you said. Self-discipline leads to self-respect. Self-respect leads to courage. I think that's something to piggyback off what you just said. As a quote, I actually started running and I did the Murph back in the day with Graham Desert. If you guys don't know who Graham Desert is, he did the Murph, which is an insane workout. I think he did it 366 days in a row or something like that. He ended up making it in Men's Health magazine and stuff. It's a mile run. And then it's 100 pull-ups, 200 push-ups, 300 squats, and then another mile run. And you do it with a weighted vest on. I didn't have a weighted vest, so I didn't do it with a weighted vest. But the consistency, that self-discipline of doing it repeatedly and getting to the point where I had some self-respect. And when they asked me to do it, at first I said no. And then Graham was like, just finish. You don't have to rush it. Just finish. That gave me enough courage. I had enough courage that I was willing to go try it. And I did it. And then nobody ever could take that away from me again. Nobody can take that away from me again. I'm now a person who accepted the challenge, did it, completed it. And now I am a guy who's completed a Murph. I'm not a guy who refused to do or try a Murph. So that's a piggyback. My takeaway would be, I guess there's a quote or a law in physics. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. And that is, I've found to be true in my life. Every action, every word I say, every movement I make, holding the phone, every single thing in my life has a consequence. Consequences aren't always bad. Sometimes they're good. But I think for anybody who's listening, the takeaway I would give to them is to take responsibility for the consequence, knowing full well that there is a consequence. And it may be that you screw up in your relationship and it takes you years to fix. It may be that you screw your kid up because you won't put the phone down. It may be that you let your sales team down because you don't go out into the field with them. Whatever it may be that you do put the phone down, and the consequence is there for a better relationship with your child. So I would say take some onus on that. Make sure you're always thinking about service to self, service to others, and what will the consequence be of my action. God, I wish somebody had well, they definitely tried. They tried to tell me about consequences when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
I wish I had have listened better.
No doubt. God.
Taking ownership of the consequence.
I wish I had have learned better.
Robert, I can attest to. Unfortunately, I learned best through
Pain.
destruction,
Touching
and
them
pain,
frying
bro.
pans.
Yeah,
Yeah.
man. People told me all kinds of shit when I was a kid that, God, situations would have been much better for me. But honestly, I wouldn't be the person that I am today.
Yeah, hell yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I'm seasoned. I've been through things. I have a lot of empathy for a lot of situations and things that people do and what they're going through. I'm not quick to pass judgment on people because,
Preach.
bro, I've been there and I thought I had it all figured the fuck out too.
No doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt. What a great episode, fellas.
Hell yeah.
This was good. I think we're at our hour here. Almost. Not
We're
quite.
pretty close.
Yeah. Close
What
enough.
about you, Ty? You ain't getting
Takeaway?
out easy.
What's the takeaway?
What's your takeaway?
Consequences to our actions, consistency, time. I like the time thing, things I must earn. It's taken quite some time. I mean, my childhood was kind of screwed up, not necessarily because of the circumstances, just mostly because of the decisions I chose to make. Right. And I think at that moment where I stopped just blaming everyone else for my circumstances, and then that comes with age, which has created a lot of empathy, and so I can sympathize for other situations that people might be going through. And I have to understand too, like I mentioned before, that people grieve differently. I don't know what they've gone through. And I try to keep that in mind too. Am I the best at it? No. Do I still say stupid things and get angry? Of course I do. But I identify it a lot quicker today. It's something that I have definitely worked on. It's something that I continue to work on, and the journey that we're on. And for myself, it's definitely something that I'm continuously trying to work on, thinking of the consequences, good or bad, playing that tape through. If I do this, XYZ will happen, and I really try to be a more of a forward thinking individual today. If I do this, how will this impact us? But sometimes I get so far out in the weeds too, I can't see the forest through the trees. And I even say that to myself. Have I gotten myself to the point where I can't see the forest through the trees? And I've gotten a lot better about using people as a sounding board, right? To get like, hey, is my thinking screwed up here a little bit on this? So-and-so said something. Do you think I misunderstood what they, whatever the case might be? And I think that it goes back to the how, right? Being honest, open-minded, and willing to remain teachable, to be empathetic, to be open to other people's opinion, and maybe take it into consideration and all of these things, and not be so closed-minded. Like, nope, that says stop. And nope, that means go. And be more open, to other people's thoughts, opinions, attitudes, and try to relate to where maybe they're coming from. And I think that comes with time, that comes with being seasoned. And that comes
sometimes it comes with losing your whole team.
Yeah, that comes from that too.
Sometimes it comes from getting your ass kicked. Touching hot frying pans.
Well, that comes the mistakes that I've made have definitely got me to where I'm at today. And I posted something the other day. I started creating memes. I got this pretty cool app on my phone. And so
you get a couple?
Yeah, sure. I'll share them with you. And I have them saved, but I rolled one out. And the thing is, it's like, get comfortable with failure, because most people are afraid to. Mm-hmm. Okay. And there, for argument's sake, it's not a failure if you've learned something from it. Yeah, we can but my point is like, embrace the suck. basically. And I think somebody, Chris Cox, put that in the comments on my post, was like, embrace that suck. Like, yeah, if I'm not willing to take a gamble and if I get obsessed with like the failure portion of it, like I'm going to fail, we can't do this, we're not going to do this, then we paralyze ourselves and then we don't move forward with anything. And I think that's the difference between certain individuals and other people is it's like they get stuck in those excuses. I might fail. This could happen. That could happen. Well, what if you win?
Yeah.
And if you don't win, what are you going to learn from, the lesson? What is the lesson from that?
Yeah.
What could I have done wrong? What could I have done different not to lose my whole team?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And that through all of that, I have definitely have had more non-successful events happen in my life than successes. But because of those non-successful decisions or choices or actions, the success has been much more great because of the lessons learned from the failures, hands down. And we could make that into an entire episode of,
let's do it.
Failures. You have to have so many failures in order to, the high jump. I have to not get that high jump, but once I hit that high jump, what can I go 12 more inches to get the world record? You know what I mean? It's just how many times did the
first person to run a 4-minute mile, and now we're in like I think 3 minutes and 34 seconds.
You know what I mean?
Somebody may break it, this week in the Olympics. I don't know.
Yeah, they could, and they probably will. But yeah, no, that's me summing things up. So, anywho, what a great episode 240. It makes it about 4.6 years. We're about 20 episodes away from 5 years into this.
It's crazy.
I don't know exactly what day that falls on, but we'll pull up a calendar here and maybe strategically that might fall on the 21 turkey this year. I don't know.
It's the week before Thanksgiving.
The week before Thanksgiving. Cool. Very cool. So thank you guys for joining us. Don't forget to like, love, subscribe to our YouTube channel, Facebook, Spotify, Google, all that good stuff. And we'll see you next week for episode 241 of Behind the Tool Belt.